How many of you feel that your life is in danger? If you are a follower of Jesus, it's a good question. So much and so many depend on how you answer that question. Because we live in a culture that promises acceptance and promises the fullness of life if we are successful enough, popular enough, pretty enough, skinny enough, rich enough, and powerful enough. And yet God says to us, now listen, God says to us, we are enough. We are enough. In fact, God says, you know what I'm looking for? God says what? You are my beloved. We are enough. And so as followers of Jesus, our life is to be like Jesus' life. And our free will, just like Jesus had free will, is to be able to say yes or no. I want to be like Jesus. I don't want to be like Jesus. I'm going to follow Jesus' path, or I'm not going to follow Jesus. I'm going to live God's way of life, or I'm not going to live God's way of life. I have the freedom to say yes or no. Remember when Jesus was in the desert and the devil was tempting him? Gave him all kinds of things, all ways of being successful. You will be more successful in life if you do this. I can make you powerful enough. And Jesus said, no. I can give you all the popularity and the prestige you need. No. I can give you all the wealth. No. And so Jesus walks out of the desert saying, this is the way I'm going to live my life. And what he does is he immerses his life totally in God's way. St. Paul says that he emptied himself. So if we're supposed to be like Jesus, then we have to empty ourselves. But if we empty ourselves, what do we fill ourselves with? Because our culture says we have to fill ourselves with money and prestige and popularity and beauty. What do we fill ourselves with? And St. Paul says we fill ourselves with the mind of Christ. The same mind as Christ. So our mind and our heart have to go together. And as I've said before, even though our mind, our heads, and our hearts are only about 18 inches apart, it's the longest distance to try to align those two. So our mind and our heart should not be filled with jealousy, anger, hatred, envy, because those affect our head and our heart. But we need to make space. We have to empty ourselves and make space for forgiveness, compassion, and love. We have to make space for God in our life. We have to make room for it. And so our baptismal promises that we make, we do that at Easter, we do that at different times during the year. We're going to do that this morning. The baptismal promises that we make as a community require us to empty ourselves of all the things that keep us from thinking and feeling and doing what Jesus did. It's not enough just to think what Jesus did. It's not enough just to feel what Jesus did. Not enough just to do what Jesus did. All three of those things have to go together. We have to think, we have to feel, and we have to do. Catholic people, it seems, our Holy Father always says, it seems like we have amnesia for 167 hours of the week. There's only 1 hour of the week, usually, that we kind of remember who we're supposed to be. The rest of the time we forget. But it takes a whole week, 168 hours, to think and feel and act like we are supposed to as baptized people. Is there a risk in all of this? Oh yeah. It could cost you your life. Just look at him. God bless you.